Hello guys, and welcome to this new video. So we are watching here the round 5 of the Russian Chess Championship. It was not the most exciting round we had so far, but I found a couple of games, a couple of interesting games for you guys. So we start with Jakovenko Vitiugov, d4 knight f6, c4 e6, g3, bishop b4, bishop d2, bishop e7, just going through the opening quickly, bishop g2, d5. So we are going in a type of Khairullin, and if you follow my videos and my live games, you know I'm not the best player with either colors here, so I won't give too much advice and too much critics to the players. Rook d1, so centralizing the pieces. Let's go through the moves, centralizing the rook. This is all logical. b6. So you might want to play either bishop a6, either bishop b7, b3. And so here the first stop of the game. So you see the pawn structure typical for a Slav game. So with the fianchetto bishop, the bishop on g2. So yeah, it's this kind of setup you see in a refuse queen's gambit, in the Catalan. In the Slav generally you have those pawns, and here this bishop on g2 is really strong because every time you take, it releases the power of the bishop, so it makes it a bit different. So b3 was here to protect the pawn c4. Now black plays bishop a6. So the thing is that now if you go knight c3, black is just winning a pawn on c4 as the queen doesn't protect the pawn anymore. So we have to do something here. So we will see in the game a bit later, a couple of moves from now. He will go bishop e1 and knight b d2 to develop the knight. This is a typical idea in this type of situation. Here white goes a4. Trying to activate the rook, and he starts to kind of beat maybe the queen side already. So a4, a good move. h6, it's a waiting move. I mean, sometimes the bishop lands on e4 and attacks the h7 pawn. Also you give a good square for the king, so it's a prophylactic move. a5, so pushing the pawn. Bishop d6, bishop e1. So now we are playing this bishop retreat to trade the pieces, and now black goes knight e4. It is also a typical move because if you don't do anything, white is going to play knight d2, push the pawn to e4. Let me just play a move. Well, rook c8 was a good move as well, but if I just go queen h8, let's say he wants to play knight d2, pawn to e4, and white has a strong center. He threats e5, and whenever you take on e4, he takes back, and now look at the power of this bishop along the long diagonal, and well, you might take, but I mean we have a good center, a slightly weak pawn on c6. The pawn on a7, a7, b6 are always loose as well. They don't protect each other. It would be better on b7 now. And this is good for white. So that's why after bishop e1, black has to react, and he goes knight e4. So he just decides to occupy the square. White goes for a tactical line, knight e5, knight takes e5. So now we take on e4 first. The idea is that if you retake on e4, now we can take on e5 and your bishop is pinned. So that's why I said a little tactical line. So knight e5, attacking the knight. And now when you take back her knight, we take your knight, and you cannot retake the bishop because we take the knight and pin the bishop. So black goes knight d7, best square to retreat. And here white does something that I would call a mistake. I mean, I don't know why. Like, if you watch the game between Karpov and Korchnoi, or of the grandmaster of this period, you will know that I believe it's Korchnoi, but I'm not sure, that someone maybe will write in the comments that in this type of position, when your bishop is attacked and you're gonna retreat it, you go first bishop h7 check, king h8 and bishop d3. The reason is simple. First of all, in all the endgame, the king is a square further from the center, so this is bad for him. And also now this pawn on f7 is not protected by the king anymore, so somehow the king is slightly misplaced. But Jakovenko just went bishop d3 here, well, with the idea to go maybe e4 and to protect the pawn. But I mean, I was surprised he didn't play this bishop h7 check first. I don't know what to say. I mean, if it's dubious or if it's a bad move or if it's just okay. Maybe he had some ideas. But in GM's games, you so often go check and come back. I mean, it's just something you do with your hand. So I'm very surprised he went bishop d3, and you will see a bit later that it might have changed something in the game. So So black goes queen c8, knight d2. So we develop the knight. We can go toward f3 or push e4. Here black goes, bishop b4. He could have gone c5, but he was probably afraid by pawn d5, and by example rook ac1, and he might find himself with an Nizzolani in the center or with the pending pawns. And I think that Vitiugov didn't want to see this pawn structure, so he decided to trade pieces, which is often the case when you are short on space, like he's playing on 3 files. So he's trying to trade pieces, and he's trying to trade his good bishop against the bad bishop of white. But the idea is deeper, is that he's going to trade everything off. So pawn takes, bishop takes, and now he plays this typical move c5. As the bishop is not anymore on the long diagonal, when you have this pawn structure a bit like in the Khairullin against the d4 pawn, or in the Scandinavian, talking about the Scandinavian, you always want to play c5. So now he proceeds the move. So it was a line of 4 moves from bishop b4. Take, take on c5. Here he has the exchange. The computer, b takes c5 was played in the move, and it's the move I would have played. But the computer recommends knight takes c5, pawn b4, and knight b7. This is, I mean, for a computer, this is not looking weird because it can calculate further. But for a human being, having the knight on b7 and the queen on a6, it doesn't look good. So Vitiugov understandably refused to go to this line and take with the pawn. Rook d1. So white here, just stopping for a few seconds again, is slightly better. It has a good activity. I mean, it's a move ahead of black with development. And we can see a weakness on c5. Well, you could say a weakness on b3 is here as well, but white is more prepared to attack the opponent. Also, never forget the pawn on e2 might be hanging. So knight f6. Now you cannot take on c5 because of queen takes c2. So we go queen c4, stopping the queen from looking at the pawn. And here Vitiugov played queen b7 and refused to go to the endgame. Sorry for that. So queen takes c4 might have been met by pawn c4, rook b8, just showing you the endgame how it might go. Knight e5, rook c8, covering the c6 square, rook d6. So you can see that our knight is well placed and we have the control of the d file. Rook c7, covering the pawns. Rook d1, rook b2, king f1, and that's where I will stop. White is here better because it's easier for white to protect the pawn with the king. Also, this knight on e5 is perfectly placed, protecting the pawn on c4, attacking the pawn on f7, and having the look on the c6 square. And it's always ready for black to do anything, because when you go knight e4, In many cases, it might be met by rook d8 check and rook d7, attacking the 7 rank. So black here is in trouble. Yeah. So the pawn structure is slightly worse. It's harder to defend, and the knight on e5 is really a monster, and white has an advantage in this endgame. So that's why after queen c4, Vitiugov goes queen b7. Queen takes c5, and here it doesn't recover the pawn immediately. It could have, but he played better rook c8, queen a3. So white's trying to keep the pawn, but it's not really possible. Rook c3 now. You cannot really commit yourself to defend this pawn, because you will lose it earlier than later, and you will lose your activity. So he goes a6, giving back the pawn. And he goes now queen e7. So queen e7, having a look maybe at d8, maybe at b7. The queen is perfectly placed. And now I would like to stop for a second talking about this bishop h7 check. Look what would happen in this variation if the king was on h8. The best move here would be king g8, losing a tempo to come back and protect this pawn. So maybe the game would have turned another way, but I mean, you have a benefit from having the king on d-square on g8, but you never have a benefit on having it on h8 in those type of games, because you are just carried away from the pawn. So hope you remember that, because it's something really important to remember in this game. So queen b6, rook b1, knight d5, attacking the queen. And here white missed queen b7, queen d8, and rook c1. And here the thing is that the knight is coming on e5, and it's really hard for black to keep these two weaknesses. Never forget as well this rule of the two weaknesses. You need two weaknesses to win the game, to win a game. And here you have f7 and a7. And this pawn on a6 really close to the end down. The rook is committed to a8. And well, this position was a good advantage for white. Instead, the players were short on time already. Rook b6 was played, knight e7, and rook b7. So we finally went into this endgame, and white is having a slight advantage for already some 15-16 moves. And you can see that this advantage now translates by a little weakness on a7. The 7th file is occupied by the rook, and white has an advantage. Now we'll see some maneuvering during this knight knot. So attacking the pawn, covering the pawn, knight d3, might come to b4 and c6. At some point, knight e8, knight b4. So players are moving around. Rook d7 attacking the knight, knight d3. So now the knight might jump back to e5, covering the pawn. Knight f6, we attack the rook, rook b7, knight e8, rook b1. So white is slightly improving his position, rook d7, attacking the knight. So black goes rook c6, protects the knight and attack the rook. White goes rook a1 back. We are out of the Zeitnot now. Rook b6, knight e5. So a lot of dancing. Knight to e4. Well, we'll watch this f6 line later. Rook a5, so improving again the position. Now the rook protects the knight, and we might want to play f3. Bring the rook to c5 and to c7 maybe. Also here after rook f7, rook b5, attacking the knight was winning back the rook. And after knight f7, I guess knight f6, knight d5, knight f6, knight d5 would have been a draw. So rook a5, we improve the position of the rook, we protect the knight, and we probably now threat rook takes f7. So black goes f6, and here Jakovenko went knight d3, while he could have think about knight g6, adding up pressure on the black position. Just played a few moves with the computer. So h4, h5, and I kind of like the fact that we could have upgraded the knight and pushed the pawn. Could have been an option to bring the knight on g6 and push the pawn. So white went knight d3, e5, king g2, logical, rook d6, rook c7, so we don't want to trade a pair of rook. We want to keep this rook on the 7 rank because it's a monster and it commits the rook a8 to the pawn a7. And now knight g5. Knight g5, so now the white knight, so we wanted to play f3 anyway, to kick the knight away. So now that the knight moved away by itself, we go knight c5, so now the knight finally protects the pawn, and so the rook is freed. We threat rook b5, rook b7. Black goes knight e6, forcing the exchange, but here we can finally go rook d5, rook takes a6, and rook d7. So we finally managed to give up this pawn, the a6 pawn, in order to trade the knights and come on the 7 ranks to make trouble to the black king. So g5 here saving the pawn, rook g7, king h8, rook h7 check, king g8. Just want to tell you that if you go king f8, we can at least go rook h8 and it's the same story. So king g8, rook takes h6, rook b6. So now the idea of black is to use this rook, the rook is behind the pawn, to push this pawn. It's impossible for white to give a checkmate with 2 rooks against the king. The only thing you can do is try to grab pawns. Rook g6 check, king h8, and here we could have tried, so king h8, and here we can go either as it happened in the game to bring the king forward, either we could have tried to play rook g7, a5, so the pawn has to be pushed and protected. Check, king g8, check. I think the player analyzed this line during the game. I think that it was in their calculation. Rook takes g5. So now if rook h8, we are losing the rook and winning the other back. So we play rook g5, forcing rook a6, rook g7, a4, h4, a3, h5. So now if pawn a2, pawn h6, and when you make the queen, I'm making the checkmate because the pawn is protecting the rook. So at this point, black should play the move f5. So now when we go h6, he takes on h6, we take back, he takes on g7, and he's winning with the pawn. Or maybe it's not winning, maybe rook h1, and we have time to stop the pawn, but I mean, what's the point of going from a better position to a worse position? So we could go to rook d7, straining checkmate, king g8, pawn to h6. So now we are straining rook g7 back, king f8, and checkmate. And black can't win the pawn anymore because we are winning the rook back. So it goes rook g6, only move, stopping white from playing rook g7. Now we could go rook a7, driving the rook away. He takes on h6, we take on a3, rook e6, and the next move is king g6, and the game is drawn. So it's a 10th move variation, and you know, guys, I believe the players saw all those moves here because there are 2700 GMs, and I'm pretty much sure they calculate all this line. So I went king h3, bringing the king, a5, king g4, rook b a6, and king h5. He went king h5. I would just want to show you the variation of king f5, a4, all that is forced. Take, 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 a3, rook c1, a2, rook a1, g4, king f5, and king g7. All that is forced because we needed to bring the rook to stop the pawn. I just show you this line quickly, and you will soon understand why I showed you this line. So this is what happens is forced if you play king f5. If you play king h5, this is the game. a4, king h6, threatening checkmate. Rook a7, the only move. Take, take, rook f6, threatening checkmate again. King g8, rook g6 check, king f8, rook c6, a3, rook c1, and g4. And the difference between the two lines is that in a line you have the king on g7 and the king on f5, and in the other line you have the king on h6 and the king on f8. I don't know if it's changed much. In fact, the computer says it's slightly better for white to play rook f5, not the position we have now, but the other one. Though I don't know what's the big deal. So rook a1, king e7. So the thing is that the king comes to center a bit quicker, but I'm not sure it changed a lot. So king g5, going toward the pawn. We protect the pawn. So now we have this 3 against 4. Pretty weird, but this pawn on a3 is a monster. It's so close to the end zone that it seems impossible for white to win. It's king d6, both pawns are protected. Check, rook d4. You cannot take this guy off to win a pawn because he's queening his a2 pawn. As usual in the endgame, the passed pawns are really dangerous. So we go back to a1, the opponent goes back to a4, pawn to e4 to hide the g4 pawn, a2, king f6, rook a8, king g5, so trying to triangulate, but it doesn't change much. King c5. I mean, it changed the fact that black now has to go away with the king and go for his pawn, but I mean, the position anyway is not going to be winning, but it's going to be interesting for you. So e5 pushing, king b2, rook e1, queen, take, and rook takes. So we take with the rook because, I mean, we can take with the king as well, but when we push the pawn, we cannot cover it with the rook as easily. So anyway, white is going to win the g4 pawn. So that's why we take with the rook. Sorry, missing the rook every time. In order to have the rook coming from behind, forcing the king to take the g4 pawn. But here, the black king is on time to come back. And you must know that even if white has a lot of pawns, for the rook, if the king has time to come behind, it's okay for the defending side. So f4, king d4, and you cannot go with a line like if you want to push, by example, your e pawn. I mean, you come here, I'm going king e5, you push e6, and I go rook e1. And I mean, you just use your pawn. So the thing is that when the king is defending, is coming to defend with the rook, it's hard to push the pawns because if a pawn is going too far away, it's just getting attacked by two pieces. So we go h4, pushing the pawn that is far from the king. King d5, king f5. So as I said, the king wants to come back behind. Rook a8 now. So we want to check and come behind. King f6. Give a check. So if we go behind, we can just follow the king by giving checks. Rook a8, h5, rook f8, king g4. If we go king g6, I believe that we just lose a pawn, isn't it? Let me just check with the computer if it's okay. So if we push here h6, rook g4, h7, rook takes f4, yeah, we win the pawn and we win the last one. So this is okay for black. So king e6. Now the king is in a perfect place defending the f5 squares, king f3, rook h8, g4. Just want to say that the player played the last 20 moves with less than 5 minutes on the clock for both players. So they have 30 seconds increment, but I mean they are short on time. So king g2. Now the king is cut from its pawn, but when the king is coming on d5 to go and eat everybody, white is pushing now the h pawn. Sorry, so king e6 has to come back to be able to catch those pawns. Sorry, like if now you go h7, I could go just rook e8, and if g5, king f5, and so I'm on time to stop the pawns. It's very important always to be on time to stop the pawns. So king h2, a waiting move, rook b3, king g2, rook h3, king h2, king f7, going to hit the pawn, f5, rook a5. Now we attack this one, forcing to push, king f6. So the idea is that the king is far away and will be able to harass the pawn, but they are too close to the end zone to be able to make anything with black. King g3 is coming back, king g5. So he's really trying to drag the king away and maybe eat some pawns, but the thing is that they are really too close. King f3, rook a3. I think the game was already drawn here. Yeah, it's my analyze. I guess the game was drawn about here. Yeah, here it was drawn already. So this is my analyze. If you go on king g3, king g5, king f3, give a check. Just wanted to show what happens. So you can hit the h6 pawn, but we push f6, king g6, attacking the pawn, and g5. And you cannot hit the pawn because it's going to be queened, and if you go check, and you have to check all the time, or all the way. Well, I hope it was not too long, because it was a long end game, and maybe not the most exciting game of the day. So it was a long explanation, 27 minutes. I just see that. So I hope it was not too long. Maybe I've stopped 5 minutes before. The second game, we are going to watch the important moment of the game. So queen b3. Here is the next move. Wait, I'm opening. So queen b3, attacking the rook. Black goes rook d2. White goes knight f3. And here, so it's Bukavshin with white against Khairullin. And Khairullin here went rook to a2, which is a losing move. I mean, it was really hard to play. But here I wanted to show you what the computer is giving us. The computer is giving rook takes f2. It's a very beautiful move. King takes f2, knight e4 check. So this is force for the moment. Now, looking at a few moves. If king e1, queen f6, attacking the knight, rook takes d5 and queen f3. If we move the knight away, any squares, it's met by queen f2 and queen d2 checkmate. And if we protect the knight, it's met by let me recheck it. Should have written that before. It's met by queen c3, king e2, queen c4 check, queen d3, knight c3 check. This is a pin. King d2, and knight takes b5 with an equal endgame, because white is coming to take the pawn. So that's why we go rook d5, queen f3, and white might try to win this game still. it's an unclear position because you are an exchange down, but we have some good activity, a good couple with the knight and the queen. So that's what happened after king e1. After king g2, black goes queen d6, and this is very crazy because you cannot stop queen g3, and you have to at least give up a piece. So this is already better for black. Just to show you, if rook d5, by example, queen g1, and after, okay, king f1 is queen f2, and after king h1, it's knight f2 checkmate. So it's pretty beautiful line again. So this is if king g2, and if you go king e2, it's met by queen takes b5 check, queen takes b5, and knight c3 check, making the fork. So here Bukavshin missed this amazing rook takes f2. I mean, it's an amazing move to play. Not Bukavshin, Khairullin. I would not have found this move, and I'm not sure how many people could play this one after 54 moves, knowing that you're in Zeitnot and you are pretty tired. Instead, you went rook a2, so white cannot take the rook because of queen b5, winning the rook back. But he goes rook b7, queen e2. So here you feel that black has a very strong threat, which is queen takes f2, but white goes knight d2. And the thing is that after queen takes d2, white can simply play rook f7 and rook takes f6. No more threat on the white king, and this king is totally naked and everybody is coming into the house. So this is totally winning for white. So I believe he missed this knight e2 move. Amazing. Giving a piece in a move, but this is the winning one. Because if you go rook f7, immediately, your opponent goes king g8. And this is attacked and this is attacked, and you cannot do anything. So that's why you need to go knight e2 first. So king g8, trying to defend. Now queen takes a2, because the connection between the queen and the rook disappeared. Knight e4, going for the same idea as we saw earlier, but now it's just made by rook takes f7, and if you take on f7, queen d7, king moves away, and knight takes e4. So this is the end. Knight takes d2, and queen takes d5. Black resign. Is going just to be checkmated on the next moves. So the only win of the game by Ivan Bukavshin. It was a really interesting firework at the end. So let's watch now the standings. So as I said, a pretty boring round. Khairullin and Motilov made a quick draw. So it's the second game in the results section on the right of your screen. So it was a quick draw. Tomaszewski applied some pressure on Dubov, but didn't last long. Artemiev was better against Vidler in a Maroczy style pawn structure, but he could not cover his advantage. In fact, he lost the advantage in 4-5 moves and could not apply pressure. And Jakovenko and Vitiugov, so it's the game we saw, and Rd5 in Lise. Rd5 had a slight advantage, but he could not take the full points. So let's watch the standing. Tomaszewski and Artemiev still in the lead. I'm afraid that Artemiev missed a good chance today, and in this type of tournament, better to win every game. Every game you can. So when you have a chance or even half a chance, then you can't apply any pressure. It's not really a good style, but he's only 17 years old, so he has a lot of time to win this championship. Vitiugov, Khairullin just trailing by half a point, still fighting. Jakovenko, the top seed, might come back. He was really a fighter today, but could not take the point. It will be harder for the other favorite, Peters Vidler, which has only 2 out of 5, and he really needs to win in the next round. So see you tomorrow for the 6th round of the tournament. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.